Welcome everybody to another episode of the Kick and Makeup Show. It is New Year's Day.
2015.
2015. Just kidding. It's a week later. It's January 7th. It's freezing outside. I'm the American Hybrid Nick Cunningham, Jeremy JD Dorsey, and we are kicking this New Year's off with so much to talk about. 2014's done. It was a low to mid year in MMA, right?
Yeah. I think it was a transcendent year. Is that a good word?
Yeah.
Sort of moved from one thing to the next, and
Nice.
I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I think we'll figure that out in 2015.
Right. This is like a rebuilding year, I
Mhm.
would say. Everybody's saying this is the year that makes or breaks the UFC. This is the year that Bellator pulls up right behind the UFC, and there's not so much of a gap. Invicta FC is going strong. So, ton to talk about, ton to look at this year. But
I think I would compare 2014 for. Actually, I'll say that for later.
Okay, all right.
I'll save it for later.
Let's get our particulars out of the way so we can just get into this show. This is the Kick and Makeup Show. www.kickandmakeup is our website where you can go see all the archived things I've written for Ola America, all of our past videos, any of the polls we do, just all the stuff that we've done the last few years. Check it out. See if you like it after you're done with the show. You can go to our Facebook page and invite yourself in, and we will let you into the group page. It's Kick and Make Up, and that's what we do. A lot of our polls before the fights, a lot of our 3 a.m. postings when something comes up in the middle of the night. If we're both up or whatever, we see that, we throw that right up there so you guys can be as current as possible with everything. We've got an Instagram page, we've got a YouTube page. You just type in Kick and Make Up, right? And that's how you get in.
That's all you got to do. We'll pop up real quick, especially if you know the logo.
There it is. Yeah, if you don't know it, Kick and Make Up with the K. The Twitter we've got, at Kick and Make Up, is Jeremy's in the shows. At Hybrid MMA is mine. And we just did the first time this past weekend for UFC 182, the quick videos, the quick kicks. And those were good. We just put up videos right after the fights. Our 2 minute, or actually 1 to 2 minute little blurb of exactly how he felt immediately after the fight, and I like that, man. I think we're gonna do more of that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was sort of surprised how the first one was a little bit shaky because you're a little nervous about doing it. I don't really know why, but just a little nervous, and then you get them out the way, and it's fun. It's easy to start flowing, and gives everybody a way to sort of interact with us and us interact with them right in the moment after something is over.
Right. So if this is your first time seeing the show, this is the format. We do the high kick of the week, the low kick of the week, and that's some bull kick. And that's some bull kick is where we go off, we stand on our soapbox, and we just go off and talk about something completely obscure of the week that's ridiculous and bull kick worthy. Our high kick is obviously the best thing that happened or most talked about. Well, actually, it's not even the most talked about, because sometimes the most talked about can be bull kick or low kick. So the best thing of the week that we feel, and the low kick is the worst thing of the week. This year, or this time, we're actually going to do the high kick of the year for 2014, the low kick of the year, and that's some bull kick. But before we get into all that, we're going to talk about UFC 182 a little bit, because it's still fresh. It was this weekend. There's still things that we'll get to later today. Actually, you should have said something, because we need to do breaking news.
Yeah.
We should have done breaking news. There it is. That was nice. I was going to do some sound effect, too. So it's too bad if somebody had the thing turned up all the way, and they just got like in their ears right now.
Their ears. Sorry about that.
So 2 pieces of breaking news. One, we'll get to the little one and the big one. The little one is Eddie Alvarez is out for UFC Boston, and Donald Cowboy Cerrone is taking his place for the co-main event to fight Benson Henderson. That's their 3rd time. It's going to be awesome. First time in the UFC. What do you think about that, man?
The first thing I thought is that if Henderson loses, he might be out at this point. With the way his star is sort of fading a little bit, I think he may be out, or at least really close to going out. And that, that's sort of sad to say, because he's one of my favorites. always has been. But yeah, if he can't pick up a win, it's gonna be sort of tough decision time for him and Dana White. But on top of that, Cowboy is coming into this riding a ton of momentum. I think we were at the last time he actually lost when he was in UFC Fight Night in Chicago. So he's riding a 6-match win streak right now. And especially with his fight against Jury this past weekend, sort of winning in emphatic fashion. It was he sort of surprised me because I kind of think that he's one of those guys who has never really put it all the way together. But to see him come out in a fight that was, probably a little tough, and, sort of win the way he won, and with, what he showed at the end with those kicks and stuff, that really sort of cemented the fact to me that, he is legit, and he's, he should be considered in that upper echelon of fighters right now, especially that weight class.
Yeah, it's a must-win for both fighters for different reasons. If Cerrone loses to Henderson, once again, it puts him in that weird spot again where he almost got to the top but couldn't quite make it. Henderson is the next champion, still is a high-caliber fighter, and so this is kind of like that, okay, if Cerrone can get past Henderson, then we're talking about him fighting, top 3 people, maybe getting that shot this summer for a contender's fight, or maybe even title. Who knows what happens with Pettis and Khabib, or who knows with Pettis and Dos Anjos coming up. So this is really interesting. The first 2 fights, I don't know if you guys remember, but they were very submission-y. They're both able to stand up and strike, but I just feel like I remember 10 to 15 submission attempts from each side. They were really fun to watch in the WEC. Both fights, so I really want to see what happens with this one because they're completely different fighters now.
That's what I was gonna say.
Cerrone's got the edge this time. Henderson had it before, so that's crazy how just a few years later things can flip flop. But co-main event behind Dennis Siver and Conor McGregor, ridiculous, man. It's made this card, the Sunday night card on Fox Sports 1, even better, even bigger, and I'm excited for that. So that's the first piece of breaking news.
Yes.
Switching subjects completely, talk about blowing up the internet. It was John Jones yesterday. It came out that he failed his drug test for UFC 182, dropped dirty for cocaine.
Yes.
And that's the big explosion of news right now. Everybody's got mixed feelings about it. Reebok has supported him. The UFC supported him. They're not going to strip him of his title because cocaine is not on the list of banned substances. I have a completely crazy feeling on this, but let me hear yours first.
Oh, man. Just like I sort of posted on Facebook yesterday, it's one of those situations where you got to follow the money. I don't think that the UFC is going to come out with any sort of disciplinary action. It isn't one of their banned substances, but it does not look good for the company when you have, somebody going into rehab, admitting that they've been using coke. But also the fact that the test happened so far before the event and none of that information got out. And, everyone knew about it. And, none of that leaked. I guess that's a good thing for the UFC, but I just kind of looked at it like it was one of those situations where they were securing the money that they had built up, the hype that they had built up, and it would be counterintuitive for them to just release this information like, oh, yeah, he failed his drug test. So I'm sure that would lower some of the, the pay-per-view buys and stuff. But as far as being a fan and, a journalist, you have to wonder, like, man, like, why didn't this come out? Why wasn't there any disciplinary action taken, even though you didn't have to? There probably should have been, something.
Yeah, well, why, and once again, why. Yeah. Because if this came out before UFC 182, they would have had less buys, and they were looking at this one to be the one card of the year that they were going to get 750,000 or more pay-per-view buys, which, it was going to be their biggest of the year. So that would have definitely took away some of the pay-per-view buys. I don't know. I have something.
No, that's what I was gonna say too. I mean, it's sort of just you can understand why it happened. You just don't like it, and I think everybody likes to see our stars, perform at their peak levels and not really, end up tainted for whatever reason. Right. And this sort of taints Jon Jones and, his ability. It is a recreational drug. It's not something that would make him better, in the cage or anything like that. Right. So, I'll let you finish that.
No, that was my side too. We just have to accept that professional athletes can pretty much do what they want. We've seen that this year with Ray Rice. We saw that with, people and, even with my Lions, you step on ankles and get dirty in football and still play the next day. Who knows if all this stuff. It's just professional sports. They've got a percentage of it that's dirty, and that is that little area that nobody likes to talk about. And this one would be for MMA too. It's not, like you said, it's not gonna make him any better. It's actually probably gonna make him worse, as far as if you're looking at the health aspects of it. So he's not doing himself any favors by doing it so close to the fight or whatever. And honestly, it only turns up in your system a certain amount of time. It's not like the other drugs where, like marijuana, it stays in there for 30 to 45 days. Right. It's a small window also.
I think it says 2 days.
Yeah, it's 2 to 3 days. So that means he's kind of partying a little bit fight week. And like I said, it does more harm than good. And I doubt that he just, hit a quick one before he went out there, which would still impede your breathing and mess you up. So it's going to mess him up more than it's going to help him. Right. And I just feel like I was surprised kind of that Reebok and all of them, they were standing by him and applauding him for going to rehab, but I just didn't think it was a huge deal because it's like a professional athlete did some drugs. Oh, okay. Like
tons of them do.
Yeah, this was when Bruno Mars got caught. Yeah. Nobody cared. He was on. He was still doing shows in Saturday Night Live a year late. It's like we forgive quickly. He already had DUI. That was a bigger deal than this cocaine. Yeah. So I was just like, I saw that and I was like, yeah, it's it's as to be expected with professional athletes. I think they're on a different level. They're gonna party harder. Sometimes they're gonna buy bigger, better cars. They're just gonna buy bigger houses. And that's just part of the lifestyle too of it. And we just have to accept that and kind of move on.
Yeah, and then too, it's not necessarily like Jon Jones is out there trying to be Taylor Swift or someone who's just squeaky clean.
Right.
He never really comes across as that, even though he attempts to be a nice guy, I think, at the most. But you all know that there's that hidden jerk underneath there. Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't even say hidden at this point. It's there. Yeah. It just, he tries to sort of cover it up for the media and everything like that. I think it'd be more of a shock if somebody like DC tested positive because, you sort of envision him as being the good guy.
All-American.
The all-American wholesome guy. And, but it was Jones, so I guess it kind of fits his character. But I don't know. It just sort of taints it for me. I guess I sort of think of things in the the pure sort of level, and you hold these athletes to a higher standard, but you really shouldn't because they're people too. Just about all the fighters, the athletes that we know, all do so much dirt behind the scenes, and I think that I haven't really been able to experience it with MMA yet so much, but I've had a few sort of ties to a football team, I'll put it like that, and a professional football team, and just hearing some of the stories that would come out on ESPN and stuff, and then hearing the actual story behind it, it was so different, so outrageous, but that stuff doesn't always get out. Right. And you just think about these guys with all this money, all this time when they're not, performing, and hey, they're going to go out and do what they want to do. So you just sort of have to sit back and accept that, and that's something that I'm sort of getting used to.
Yeah. So Jones will be fine. He'll get out of rehab. He'll fight Gustafsson probably if he can get through Rumble.
Rehab is BS.
His rehab he's going to, is he's going to be by the pool, hanging out, like having great breakfast, lunch, and dinners. He's going to be at a resort. Yep. So it's fine. We're all fine. Everybody get over it. Not a big deal. Moving on. So,
MBD.
Right. So that was the breaking news for the week, and we're going to get into UFC 182 now, just real quick, and kind of break down the main event cards. The flyweight was Louis Godinot versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Horiguchi won in decision. He was ranked number 11 before this fight, so definitely probably got into the top 10.
Oh, definitely.
And I haven't checked today yet, but I would imagine he's 9 or 10 right now. Tim Elliott was right in the bottom of that list too, so that'd be awesome to see. See, I didn't know a whole lot about Horiguchi before this. I read up a little bit, but he was heavily favored to win this going in, and it was really entertaining to watch. He was very good, great stand up. Tried to use some judo, had a good, almost some karate stance too. You could see in there a little bit, which I read that he was a black belt in karate, so that made sense. Yeah, I'm excited. Another flyweight that we don't know about gets get that division a little deeper and.
Right. And we've always been talking about the flyweights and how they need a little bit more, and he definitely has some potential. And you can see it. It was oozing out, especially with his speed. His striking ability too surprised me, and he's definitely on the up and up in the division.
All right, so good way to kick off the fight night, the main card. We'll go to the welterweight fight. That was Hector Lombard versus Josh Berkman. Lombard won a decision, and then my question is, who's he gonna fight next? Because he was ranked number 6 going into this. There's Matt Brown, there's Tyron Woodley, there's Rory McDonald. Those are the guys right now that are kind of in flux. They don't have fights. Hendricks and Lawler are tied up pretty much. So I think I don't know. After watching Lombard, he's fun to watch. He's fun to watch. He couldn't put away Berkman, which was surprising to me. But he ended up getting the win in decision, and I'd like to see him versus Woodley.
I think that the Matt Brown, Woodley, Rory McDonald, I think they might be just maybe a half step better.
Oh yeah,
and
I agree.
And that's where I'm like, yeah. I mean, but it really isn't anyone to fight. The division is so good. There's no one for him to fight except for probably one of those 3 names. And yeah, I would like to see Woodley, but I don't. As far as being a competitive match, I would probably say the McDonald match might be the most competitive. I kind of see Woodley running through him, and Matt Brown is such a beast.
I definitely see Matt Brown winning that for sure, and I would like to see Brown and McDonald fight more than I would if you just throwing those 4 names in and setting up a bracket. So that's why I picked Woodley, because I'd rather see McDonald Brown win for the first, for the contender fight, to whoever wins. So here we are again. We're gonna send these in.
Fantasy UFC.
Yes. Welterweight. The middleweight was Brad Tavares versus Nate Marquardt. Tavares gets a decision win. Not a whole lot to talk about with this fight. It was
beyond the fact that Marquardt looked like they just got him from underneath the bridge.
And I'm growing my beard too, kicking makeup fans, and I'm growing it out for St. Patrick's Day. So we've got 2 full months left. God, I hope I don't look like that, because mine's reddish too, and I don't have a curly hair, so I'm gonna try to keep this, going well on top. But God, man, sorry if like a month from now it just looks like the Geico, or what was the commercial?
Yeah, it was.
Was it Geico?
I think it was Geico.
The Geico caveman, and you just doing the kick and make up. It's really me. I'll just do it like this so you can see me. But yeah, God, I mean, and this fight too, I don't really care about it, because it was just kind of like that filler fight in the middle. Brad Tavares is always entertaining to watch. Like, that's why Nate Marquardt can be either on the bad side of a knockout or the good side. So I know they had a lot of potential for this fight, or a lot of hopes for this fight. But I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it just was like that middle of the. I think I got some more nachos and some more tacos during that fight. Yeah. Filled up in my drink. Yeah. It was one of those.
And I mean, the one thing that I took away from the match was Tavares' boxing skills. Really nice jabs. And, that's something I think that is slept on a lot of times. There's so many guys who are just, they're going for haymakers all the time, and that, you don't really pace yourself and, use that jab to sort of knock your opponent off balance, off beat. And that's something that he totally did in this fight. And, he had a good one. He had a good one.
Yeah, and I don't think either one of these guys were ranked either. So I do like seeing Brad Tavares fight, and be curious to see how he does with some top 10 fighters. So maybe we'll see that later on this year. But the middleweight's definitely a big division too. So you really got to work to get up to the top. The co-main event, awesome. Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Miles Jury. Cowboy won a unanimous decision. It was Miles Jury's first loss. Like we talked a little bit about before, he's just on a tear right now. It's his 4th in a row, his 6th in a row. He was ranked number 4, so before this, I did some notes earlier. I was like, who's he gonna fight next? Obviously, we're seeing him. He's gonna fight Henderson. That is actually a little lower on where I think he could fight for, because I feel like he was gonna fight Melendez, or again, not again, but for the first time. So he better win against Henderson,
right,
rankings wise,
right?
Because if he doesn't, he's gonna drop significantly. But man, let's talk about the fight a little bit.
Yeah, and just seeing, Jury had talked so much trash ahead of time, and he's a younger fighter, hadn't lost before, and I wasn't exactly sure if Cowboy was going to come into this and, dominate or anything, because, Cowboy has a tendency, or had a tendency, to not sort of show up for big fights. And this is the biggest one yet for him. So he came in and gave a thorough beatdown of Jury, and especially the way that fight ended with those ridiculous tornado kicks.
Soccer running tornado kicks. Oh, man.
I've never seen anything like that before. Someone just
that.
load up with their entire upper body and just spin into kicks.
Yeah, it's all over the internet, so please just type in Donald Cerrone, Miles Jury, or Cowboy Kicks, and the little gifs gotta come up.
Yeah.
Just watch it. It's awesome. But that's what I thought too. I mean, and Cowboy's always said too that he comes out slow, in which he came out okay, but he really did. You just started to see him pick apart Jury slowly, and then just the damage was starting.
Yep.
And if you're Jury, I just wondered, like, why did you talk all that? Like, looking at Donald Cerrone, like, you're not better than him. No. You might have a better night,
right? But
that's a crapshoot. You may or may not, but overall, you're not better than him, and it was just apparent. And now you look stupid, and you're beat up. Yeah. You just should have fought, and people would have been more interested, and you wouldn't have had. He's not humble or gracious at all.
No.
So now what? Now what do you do? Like nothing. You just got beat up. You got kicked on the ground.
And it rubbed so many people the wrong way ahead of time, and and honestly, as far as popularity goes, I would say Cowboy is a top 10 in UFC.
Oh, definitely.
If not, a little bit higher than that. Because there's so many Cowboy fans, and you really notice that when you jump on Twitter and you see how many people out there support him, and the Budweiser sponsorship, and his trademark middle finger, and you see so many people taking pictures like that, and putting them on Twitter, and you just see how much support he has, and and he's finally been able to stack together some wins and really back that up. So I don't really know why Jury would come out and talk so much, but I guess that's his style, that's what he does, but it just kind of makes you look even worse after you lose a fight.
Yes, it does. Going into our main event, awesome. This is the one that everybody was talking about forever. John Jones versus Daniel Cormier for the light heavyweight championship. Jones ended up winning in unanimous decision. For me, he started off slow. He took down took down Cormier, which nobody saw. Took him down like 2 or 3 times in a row, like in the 3rd round, I believe. So he will probably fight the winner of Gustafsson and Rumble later this January. Their fight's in January, so that fight will be probably April, May, something like that. But good fight, surprising fight. I had Jones winning in the 1st round. And I said, okay, fine, end of the 2nd, and he took him to the 5th round. I mean, completely through the whole fight, which is something I didn't see.
No, I thought that Jones was going to come in and thoroughly outclass DC. I didn't think it was going to be close at all, but it was way way more close than than a lot of us probably expected. And you have to wonder if he's out there doing coke and partying too hard. Maybe that's why he came out and sort of looked sluggish. He
did.
He looked slow.
It makes sense to me though when that came out. I'm like, he did look just like strung out a little bit. So man,
and it wasn't as technical as he usually is, and he's one of the beasts of the sport, and you didn't really see a whole lot of the trademark aggressiveness that he shows. You didn't really see a lot of you didn't see the elbows coming a lot, and you just wonder about his game plan too. And I mean, we were talking the entire time, and we were saying, why is he letting DC get in on him? And you could see when he was using his length to his advantage that he was chipping away at him and making a difference and scoring a lot of points that way. You just have to wonder, why was he trying to do what he was doing when he could have spent the whole fight from range and got points that way, and would have been just as convincing as the way that he won, eventually won the fight anyway, without taking nearly as much damage and nearly as much risk as he took.
He took a lot of damage. Those uppercuts that DC were throwing landed frequently, and honestly almost put him out a couple of times. You get a few of those lunch boxes up, coming at you. You're going down. So I don't know why either. He just risked it. And then he, Jones for me got on the mic and talked a lot of shit at the end. It's like, nah, you didn't dominate. You barely won again. So for me, this is something we'll talk about in the high kick later. But he's had some close calls with Gustafsson, Cormier. So you gotta look into that, and you're not exactly the most explosive fighter as you used to be.
And
so
you sort of just have to wonder, okay, is it the drugs? Is that what has been taking its toll on him, which has slowed him down a little bit? And if he decided to give that up, is he gonna be back to his normal self, or is time catching up with him, and he's sort of reached his plateau? And he's starting to come down that hill now, and you have to wonder if everybody else who's below him is gonna, they're gonna get more of a chance now. And you just don't know until that next fight. So I guess we'll have to sort of hold off and wait and see what happens then. But it's his last two performances, as far as he goes, weren't exactly spectacular. Right. He didn't win in spectacular fashion like he had been before. Maybe that just shows how good he is, that he can be off of his top shape and still get a win.
Right, barely get a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll give you a spoiler right now. If Gustafsson and him fight again later this year, I'm picking Gustafsson. There's no question about it for me after the first one and after seeing the differences of both of them. So I want that fight to happen. I love Rumble Johnson, but I want to see Gustafsson.
And then too, the just real quick with Gustafsson, the biggest advantage that Jones has a lot of times is that range and that reach, and Gustafsson negates that. Yep. And that's exactly why I can see you going that way. I don't think I would go that way until I see him lose, but I think I would really be setting myself up for something if he did end up fighting.
It's the beauty of this, man. Yep. You never know until it gets there. Yep. All right, so that was the breakdown of UFC 182. If you guys have any other questions or comments, anything, email the show, www.kickandmakeup.com, or go there and then email us from there. Hit us up on Facebook, all the Instagram stuff, YouTube. Put your comments anywhere and everywhere. The Facebook one, I will say, and Twitter is really where we get it going. So make sure, if you're not a member of that yet, get yourself in it.
Especially Twitter, man. Twitter's a lot of fun, and thanks to all the new followers that we have over the past week, gained a bunch. So thank you guys for tuning in and checking us out and interacting with us. It's fun.
So we are gonna get into the meat and potatoes of this show. The high kick of the year. So for me, the high kick of the year goes to the entertaining champions right now. The champions that are in the UFC and World Series of Fighting, Invicta FC, these and Bellator. These are finally champions that are finishers. And that's what I said with Jones. I put him in here Normally he is. He's on the cusp for me now though. But as far as like Demetrious Johnson, T.J. Dillashaw, Robbie Lawler, Cris, Weidman, Ronda Rousey for World Series of Fighting, he's got Rousimar, Palhares, the ankle killer. Bellator's got Joe Warren, Will Brooks. Invicta FC's got Barb, Honchak, Cris, Cyborg, Herica, Tiburcio, who just beat Michelle Watterson. These are entertaining champions. Finally, it's not the champions like the GSPs. And towards the end of Anderson Silva's and stuff like that, Jose Aldo. Right. These champions. I had Aldo on there, but he's also I've got him losing later this year. Yeah. So he's on that fence too. But for the most part, we've got some really entertaining champions, and that's awesome to see. It just gets back to that feeling where you're really excited to see that main event fight. These guys are going to be dominant. You don't necessarily know if they're going to win, but it's going to be a dominant fight. It's going to be ridiculously entertaining with a high percentage of a finish. And I don't think you can ask for more than that in a championship fight. So that's definitely my high kick of the year is just good champions.
And, just commenting on that, you have a few guys who are relatively young, too, which is always a good thing to see if you're a promotion and you want your, some of your champions to be young that are going to have those, those long reigns as champions, sort of like, like Silva had for so long. But as far as I'm concerned, the high kick of the year, and I can't remember if it was last year that I gave this the high kick or... I know I mentioned it last year and sort of the things that were going good for MMA in 2013, but as far as 2014 is concerned, my high kick is still the development and the, I guess I'll say bankability of women's MMA. Just to see the sport continue to grow. As far as, you already have a niche sport, and then you have a niche within a niche, and, just to see it grow and continue to develop and, looking at the ratings for The Ultimate Fighter and seeing how many people watch that and how they're able to continually build stars from, a very firm floor of fighters. There are a lot of really good female fighters out there, and I think a lot of times, people... I find myself not so much looking at them as women, quote unquote, but I just like the stories behind it. And it seems like those stories aren't necessarily there a lot of times or don't get featured as much in men's MMA. But as far as the women are concerned, those stories are always there. They're getting the boost and the push that, they should get right now. Invicta is continuing to, sign new talent. They just signed 4 really talented fighters this past week. Just seeing them continue to do what they do, I hope that they continue to invest as much as they can in the sport the way that they are right now, and that they continue to branch out the way that they are, because that's really the key to developing that niche into something that's even more of a niche than, developing it into something that can truly stand alone. Yeah,
and UFC does not have the edge by any means over or any of the other organizations. World Series of Fighting, I did, some stories this year on Jessica Aguilar, the champion. I'm working on another story about Alexa Grasso, who for Invicta FC just won Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year, Knockout of the Year for the fan voting for Invicta FC. And I'm like, man, this girl's killing it. And she's 22, 23, so she's got plenty of years ahead of her. Paige Van Zant just got signed to the UFC. She was a big person that was, being built up too. Came in, murdered her opponent, looked ridiculous doing it, ridiculously awesome doing it. I'm excited too about
And you know what? Throughout this entire time, There's one thing that we didn't mention. Can you guess what that is?
We didn't mention Ronda Rousey yet.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's an incredible thing, because before she was all you had.
Yep.
She was it. But now you see that floor being developed so strong that that there are these other stars that are there too. They're not on her level yet, but you can go into a 4-minute, 5-minute discussion on women's MMA and not have to mention her at the very beginning, middle, or end.
Right.
And that just shows you how the sport is growing and developing. So that's why it definitely gets my high kick of the year. And I can see that continuing to develop into something that's going to be and continue to be huge.
Well, even Bellator, Scott Coker owns it now again. He's even said he wants to get back to having women fight on the card, which I think is smart. It's another platform for these women to come up, and just anytime another organization adds a whole nother division, a whole nother gender, it's good. It's good for the sport. It's good for everybody. It's good for those fighters that maybe can't get on Bellator yet. Maybe can't. And not to say that they're the lowest of the best, but it's another opportunity for them to put themselves out there and get where they need to get, So 2015 is gonna definitely be a good year for women, and good year for these champions. So good high kicks, high kicks, man.
Definitely.
Low kicks of the year, we have the similar ones we said before this.
Yeah.
Low kick of the year for me was the Reebok deal, and also the UFC fallout. The Reebok deal. Just to sum it up quickly, I thought it was a bad deal for the fighters. They're going to be held to Reebok only now. They're going to lose out on some of their sponsors potentially because these sponsors aren't going to be able to be showcased fight week, fight night, anything having to do with the fight that week. I just think that's bad for the fans. It's bad for the small businesses. It's bad for everybody except for Reebok and UFC. And the UFC really didn't get that much money from it either, so it's not that great for them either. You want to talk about the deal before?
I was just gonna say it's genius for Reebok.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? A $7 million investment?
Yeah.
For a multi-million-dollar company, and now you're sort of branding an entire league of the best. So, it's a no-brainer for them. As far as UFC, they probably, and it sort of bleeds into the next part, but they totally need the money, and that's just so scary to hear. It's scary to hear that they, are at the top of the sport right now. You would assume that they're generating a lot of money, but apparently, just through inference of the things and the deals that they're making, they aren't. And that's sort of scary for the future of the sport, because you want to see the best promotions do well. You want to see all the promotions do well, but you really want to see the best do well, because that's the thing that's, that's going to be most responsible for the sport continuing to cross over. And I think you see that more and more now. You see more and more coverage of MMA, on a daily basis, but it still hasn't reached the big four status.
Right.
But, it's inching there. But if something were to happen with the UFC and it were to collapse, dramatically, that would be a huge blow to the sport. So you don't want to see that. You want to hope that they're managing things the way that they need to be managed. But just seeing some of the business moves they're making, it makes me a little bit nervous.
I don't know. That was my second half, was the UFC fallout this year. We really, in 2014, it was brought to light that it was their worst fiscal year, worst financial year. They're in the middle of a lawsuit, an antitrust lawsuit right now, where they've got 4, 5, 6 fighters suing them, saying that they held a monopoly over them during their time as fighters, that they didn't let them, branch out to other things. They didn't let them, get the money they needed to get from their sponsors, or, just kind of told them what to do past the point of what they should have done as a business owner. Low pay-per-views, the lowest pay-per-views ever for the UFC this year. I even said too, like, the oversaturation, just UFC everywhere. It really made the brand thin. When you've got a card every week, it's not as exciting as before, when we've talked about this, when you've got one big card a month. You bring all your friends over, you just talk about it all week. Every card's good, every fight's good on the card. You just you stay in on a Saturday night. It's UFC, we gotta watch it, because if we can't watch another one until next month. Now it's like, I'll tape it, I'll miss that one. The division's all over the place anyway, so it doesn't really matter who wins those cards. At the end of the day, it's about who brings in most of the money. So this year's really I don't think it's questionable if the UFC is gonna stay open. but it's questionable of, you know, how far down the rankings are gonna go as far as most legitimate company.
And you have to wonder what they're doing to change this, and it doesn't seem like it's almost like they just doubled down on themselves, you know. And that's a strategy that you can take. It probably wouldn't be one that I would take if I was in charge, but you know, they sort of doubled down on what they have going, and from everything we've heard, the pay-per-view buys for the, you know, Jones DC fight were, you know, really, really good. So I guess that's a good thing, and I know that they've been hyping pretty much the beginning of the year,
right?
You know, incredibly, and sort of stacking things that way. And I guess to some extent you can do that.
There's some huge cards in this just this month alone. So.
But you know what? I'll say that I don't think it's necessarily huge cards. They're huge fights.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's still some of the
huge
stuff.
Main events.
Right. Yeah. There's some huge, you know, main events and stuff coming up, but not necessarily the cards that you want to see. And you know, just you can understand why, you know, they're doing the UFC in Ireland, and, you know, with Conor McGregor and all that stuff. But you know, when you look later on with the Silva Diaz card, you just kind of, I could imagine them combining like two of those and make it into a mega event. You know, like, you know, if you combine the card with you know, Rousey on it, and I don't know which one it is. I think it's 83. Is it?
Yeah, the white. They've done that with that one kind of, because they've got the Belfort, Weidman, Rousey's, and Ghana.
Right.
But if they took like the Conor McGregor and Siver had that the co-main event underneath Anderson Silva and Diaz.
Right.
You know, and then put Henderson Cerrone under that as the middle fight. Right. Then you're talking about the old school cards.
Yes.
And then, but you know, like you said, instead they're gonna put McGregor in Boston.
Right.
I don't think it's gonna make as much money as it could be if he was the third fight of the night underneath those two.
Right. But I honestly think, unless they look at it like how, you know, music artists do shows, like show money is where you get your money at. So if that's somehow how they make their money, I can understand it a little bit that way.
You'll
but
sell out Boston for sure.
Yeah, so. But you would think though that you're gonna sell out that place anyway.
Right.
So I guess you could just say, okay, well, we're gonna spread it out a little bit, but
they're gonna need to do something this year. We're gonna need to see some big story of just something random that catches us all off guard, like in, you know, June, somewhere midsummer, where the UFC does something and you're like, okay, like, oh, all right, whoa, that's a big power move, that makes sense, and that's gonna, you know, get some more money from just some outside the box weird way. Because if they don't, I mean, like you said, they're just doing the same recipe for 15, and this is, I know a lot of people have said it, their make or break it year. I don't feel like that completely, but I do feel like they need to do something. So, good low kicks, man. You know, let's see what happens with the Reebok deal too in June. I don't think anybody's gonna like to see everybody in different colored Reebok stuff. It just takes away from it.
I think that sort of got swept under the table because there's so much other stuff going on right now. Yeah. But once that starts, it's gonna all bubble up again, and everyone's gonna be like, "What is this?" And one more real quick low kick. Where, and I guess this wouldn't be for 2014 completely, but I guess it could be too. But where the heck is MMA in the Midwest? Like, can we get some, you know, a UFC, Bellator, World Series of Fighting somewhere in the Midwest? And I know we just got dumped on and now it's freezing cold, but I mean, they could have gave us a little bit of a bone at some point during the summer, and there wasn't anything in the fall. There really wasn't anything.
UFC came to Chicago 2 or 3 years in a row? 3 years in a row, I think. So we just expected the UFC, you know, end of January to come. We kept looking and never popped up. So, I mean, Bellator, UFC, Invicta again, World Series of Fighting, like, come to Chicago. Don't even have to come to the Quad Cities. That's fine. I get it.
I wouldn't come here.
Come to Chicago. Come to Peoria. Come to
Milwaukee.
Yes, anywhere. Go to Minnesota, man. We drove to Minnesota. Quick 5 hours. Easy 5.5 hours. We'll go to Minnesota. Yeah. Anywhere, please. I wish I had like the sign that said like, please come to the Midwest.
Right.
And then just freeze that and then save it and then post it everywhere. But yeah, so that's just a low kick in general.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's get to this bull kick, man. The bull kick of the year. We have similar ones too. I guess we could just sum it up with the random signings of the year for the UFC again. And we didn't want to keep all these to UFC, but Bellator and World Series of Fighting, they didn't sign The Undertaker. Or so we would have, or whoever else. So we would have said something if they did. But UFC for sure signed CM Punk and brought back Rampage within like a month of each other, a few weeks of each other. And my big thing was that puts a legitimacy in question. Dana White always said they weren't going to be a spectacle sport. They weren't going to do these super fights. So why are you signing professional wrestlers who have no experience in MMA? And this quote, I think I told you maybe, but I heard it on a different podcast too. It said, CM Punk, and Dana White said, CM Punk's my friend. He said he wanted to give this a go. So, who am I to tell him no? Well, you're the owner of the UFC is who you are. And so that's what he said. So as long as you're friends with Dana White, you want to give this a go, he'll sign you. Go train wherever and get you your shot. I'm like, is that what the UFC is now? Like, it's my bucket list.
One like when you told me that story, the first thing I thought about was like, man, I can't think of the name of it. What's the Jean-Claude Van Damme fighting movie?
Kickboxer, Lionheart.
Any one of them. Any one of them. Any one of your favorite, of those type of fighting movies from the 80s. Early 90s. The fighter always started out at the lowest of the low, fighting, someone who's a no-name and they got their butt beat or, that maybe they won, whatever. But they always started out, lowest on the totem pole and worked their way up. This thing is like taking someone like that and putting them at the very end of the movie. This is, dream realized. I'm fighting in the main event. Boom. And this dude has no experience. I don't care how many times he's sparred, how many, hours he's rolled around with somebody, which can't be a ton because I know how the WWE schedule is. Those dudes work relentlessly. They have so many shows beyond the ones that are televised. And I think I saw somewhere that they work over 300 days a year. So I know that those guys, he doesn't have time to become the type of MMA fighter that he needs to be. So that leads me to guess that he's working on that right now. So ever since the point of him leaving WWE up until now and up until his first fight, he's going to be working on that, which at most is going to give him, let's say, 8 months.
Yep.
And then you're just like...
I hope I don't... Well, a sick part of me hopes I see him soon just to watch what happens, but that's not very safe or nice of me to say. So as the intelligent MMA fan, I hope I see him at the end of the year in December. So he's giving himself a full year, and we can really see his potential. If he fights in May or June, we're not going to see him at his full potential. It's gonna be morbidly fun to watch him get his ass beat, but it's gonna be like we want to see him towards the end of the year. He joined Rufus Sport.
Right.
We're gonna try to get out there later this year to drop in on a practice to see what's going on, talk to him a little bit, talk to everybody there, and see, because Duke Rufus even said something too in an interview that said, we're a tight knit group. We don't usually take in people that are not lifelong or people that just say, oh, I want to fight now. He's like, we've got a family here that've been training since they were 5 and 6. We don't just let anybody in, but he did. Obviously I get it why he let him in, but I want to see what happens and just I don't know, man. Maybe we all eat our words and he just goes out there and just kills the dude. But his first opponent's not going to be anybody either, so he may do that. He may go out and win, and still for me it's like, okay.
But then it just reeks of a setup. And you're just like...
Which is what's going to happen. Right.
But, I mean, you just wonder why... you wonder why the UFC is deciding to do something like this. If it isn't beyond the desperation sort of measures that, you know, we were talking about before, because, you know, it makes no sense. It makes no sense, and you just have to, you gotta wonder. And seeing the, you know, the Rampage thing with him coming back, and, you know, the way he left, and, you know, I had someone try to convince me the other day that he was going to be, you know, solid and stuff. His time has passed. I'm sorry. You know, it's just something that we don't want to see. It's not the way you continue to grow the sport. I think the way you grow the sport is if you have to take some losses and some L's, what you do is you put more into developing new and young talent. Yeah. And I think that's where it's at. It's the long range model versus the short range model. And you see so many sports teams in all sorts of sports decide to take the short term model and go out and sign free agents and, you know, patchwork together stars who are past their prime. Right. And those guys might come in and, you know, if you get Rampage back, he might, you know, boom you for one pay-per-view. Right. At the most, maybe two, and then it's gonna go back to being old and slow like it was before.
I'm just thinking, even in my head too. Does he come out with the big chain still? It's like the guy, you know, that walks into the club with like the acid wash jeans and the gold chain in his hairy chest. Like it was cool in the 70s and 80s, but it's just not anymore. I mean, does he come with his grr face on and like the whole theatrics of like? I mean, fighters now, they walk to the cage, they fight. They don't have to have all that theatrics behind them. No. You know. And
was that his last fight that we saw in Chicago?
Yeah, versus Teixeira.
Yeah. And I mean, wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't.
And I can't imagine that he's better now.
No.
You know, then you got to throw Lesnar into this too, and you know, at least he was legitimate. You know, he was a champion. Yes. In your sport before. You know, he doesn't have a WWE. I guess he has a WWE belt and a UFC belt.
Cool. Like, yeah. So we'll see, man. That's please UFC, don't sign anybody else for a little bit.
And if we see the Roy Jones Jr.
Anderson Silva fight,
anything close to that, I might have to give up my UFC allegiance. I might have to just cash that card in at that point and just say I'm done, because that is.
That's exactly what he said. Dana said he wasn't gonna do ever, and he's already doing that now. Yep. So,
and that's in a
Shaquille O'Neal this year, maybe.
Oh God, that's less than a 2-year span where we originally spoke on how he wasn't gonna do that and gave him props for saying that he wasn't gonna do that, and now he's gone back on it that quick.
Jose Canseco, Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh my God.
Summer UFC 2015.
Can we just get a triple threat or a fatal 4-way going or something?
Come on.
Get 4 guys in there.
All of them. Tag team. First UFC tag team.
UFC Royal Rumble.
Yes. I'm in. I will drive wherever for that. I will save up my money and fly to Hawaii for that.
30 fighters. In the octagon at one
30
time.
Enter, 1 leave. It's the first time that's ever been said. No UFC, that was definitely a movie before. But yes, use that as the catchphrase. All right. Man. So at least let's switch it. Let's switch off from the bull kicks and the low kicks for the most anticipated things of 2015. Obviously, by my red beard, you know, my number one most anticipated thing of the year is Conor McGregor. And I've had have been given a lot of flack for this, that I'm on the hype train and that it's because he's Irish. I mean, none of that is true. Like, it's fun that he's Irish, and I understand there's the hype train, but I mean, I even said to somebody last night, like, there's some true talent there, and he reminds me of an Anderson Silva-ish type of fighter. That wasn't Anderson Silva was terrible at wrestling. That was his number one downfall too, and he was a champion forever, and he couldn't wrestle for shit. So that's, for me, we haven't seen Conor's wrestling yet. It's not going to be very good, obviously. It's never going to be that good, but I feel like his striking is so different and unique and fluid that, you know, if this is the beginning stages of him. So for me, I think he's just going to get better. And it's fun to watch him fight. I've got him running through Siver, you know, and then I've got him beating Aldo, just because of how Aldo's fought. He's terrible in the later rounds. His wrestling is not good either, and so that
lines up perfectly for him.
Yep. So I just think that right now I like what's going on with Conor McGregor. It makes it fun. He's making it fun again too. It's entertaining. He's bringing in some more eyes. Yeah, so he's fun for me to watch. That's my most anticipated. And like I said, just some other small ones. What happens with Anderson Silva? Yeah, I don't think that's as big as everybody thinks. He beats Nick Diaz. Great. What happens then? And then I also have who beats Ronda Rousey this year. If Kat can't do it, then can anybody right now really beat her other than Cyborg, which isn't coming to the UFC anytime soon? No. I feel like Ronda Rousey, she's a champion, but the gap's so wide between everybody else that like she's not as fun to talk about anymore, just because it's like that's. So I want to see what happens with her at 15, Anderson Silva, and Conor McGregor.
Yeah. You know, speaking on the McGregor thing, I've wanted to hate him. And you know that.
I know.
I've wanted to hate him, but seeing him at the Time Is Now press conference, and then seeing the little interview that they did with him at 182, I see what everybody likes, and I like the brashness. I like the cockiness, but only when that cockiness is followed by somebody who can back it up.
Yep.
And he's been able to back it up, so I will give him the benefit of the doubt. But if he comes into this fight with Siver, his biggest fight ever, and wins, but doesn't win emphatically or anything like that, I'm gonna have to set that boat a sail and just say that he's not gonna be the everything or the next legend in the sport.
Right.
He might be a good fighter, but he's not going to be that. But I think with all the hype that's behind him right now, how can you not work and attempt to be the best if, you know, with all the hype and everything behind him? The UFC has, you know, definitely decided to invest in him. And they are trying to, you know, build a star, which is what we've been saying. And you know, they definitely took the right route with that, but now it's up to him, and he has to live up to that hype. Like with this fight against Siver, he should come out and dominate.
Right.
I don't care if he doesn't knock him out or anything like that, but he should thoroughly dominate the fight.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be close. It shouldn't be close.
And he said he's humble in defeat as well. I want to see that. For me, that's another piece of a champion, somebody I can follow. Like if you lose, don't make excuses.
Right.
Say something good, be honorable, and move on. That for me is another reason why he said that, but
not now. He doesn't. That loss doesn't need to come now.
No, I don't want that loss to come now.
Not right now.
No.
Not right now.
Nope. Yeah, I like this momentum that he's on. Like so. Very excited for Conor McGregor. Give us your quotes and your comments on him too. I mean, go to our website. Let's talk. We had a couple guys, you know. I had a couple of friends message me too and say, you know, Conor McGregor, is this hype real? Like, what do you think about that? I mean, I love that kind of stuff. I'm right there. I try not to get too wordy back and forth because then, you know, you've got the paragraphs are like this long on Facebook.
Right.
But no, we definitely, some of that stuff too. Like I even said last night, like I'm just going to save my comments for the show. So that means you guys got to watch the show later and see what we talk about. And we'll get a dialogue going. We'll get your questions in. That's what we do this for, man.
Yeah.
We're still chugging along, man. We're still chugging along, looking. You know, we're looking for sponsors too out there.
Man,
Kick and Makeup sponsors. We're still looking for some. If you guys know if anybody or you yourself want to sponsor us too, hey, we've never kind of gone on here and said like we're looking for sponsors, but you know, Reebok.
Yeah, anybody.
I'll wear Reebok too.
You see this? See this table? It's open. We could put things on this table down here and you know, thoroughly represent your brand, your company, whatever it may be. So
we just want this to be around for a long time. So we need. That's what I said. We don't need that stuff, but we want to make this as good and perfect for you guys as possible to keep going, so we can deliver all the news. There's so much going on. 2015 is going to be awesome.
Can I give what my most anticipated is for 2015?
Oh yes, I thought yours was kind of.
Well, it kind of is.
Oh,
well, that's it. But something else that has me ridiculously excited as far as 2015 is concerned, and that is Caged Aggression Sturgis.
Ooh.
Which
Let's
just personal. I guess it's personal for us a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
But just seeing the evolution of cage aggression, you know, in the I guess the relative short time that I've been involved in, just to see it grow, just to see it develop into something that is legitimately, you know, a rival to any other local MMA show that you would go to, and just hoping that, you know, we see the local athletes continue to be dedicated to the sport. None of the BS that we saw with the guys missing weight, with guys, you know, not being professionals, with the people that they bring with them not being professionals. There's been a lot of sort of behind the scenes BS that the light hasn't necessarily been shined on as bright as it needs to, but some of these guys are classless. Some of these guys are, you know, not indicative in any way to the quality that caged aggression is. And I really want to see what 2015 holds for cage aggression, and sort of that sort of dream culminating in Cage Aggression Sturgis and taking the show, you know, on the road to one of the biggest events in the world for the biggest anniversary that it's ever had, and, you know, being televised, all that sort of stuff. That is, you know, a dream come true to all of us involved, and I just hope that everything continues to be on the up and up with it, as much as it can be, and we're going to need the fighters to buy in to that as well.
Right. I like how you said that too. I mean, it starts with this Saturday too, Cage Aggression Challengers 2, Road to the Big Show. I love the Challengers series. It was one of the most fun cards that we did, you know, last year, the end of last year. New talent, fighters we don't know yet, and there's always some gems in there that go on to the March, you know, extravaganza double 2-night show, and then you win in March, then maybe you go to Sturgis. So, you know, you fight for a small crowd in January, and your ass could be in Sturgis fighting in front of, you know, thousands, you know, in the same year. So all these are for a reason, but I love how you said too, act like, I don't know, man, it's act like a gentleman as a fighter. I mean, just act
like a pro.
Act like
be
a
pro. Pro.
Just you know, when you're out, you're representing the company, you're representing yourself too, and like I said, some of the things we see behind the scenes too, it's just like really that's, you thought that was a good decision, and then you want to go in and expect this and that, you know, when you're not doing what you're asking for.
Yes.
So you know, step it up, everybody, this year. Just overall, that's our message. That's our New Year's message for 2015.
Yes.
Just step it up in 2015.
Get it together.
Whatever you're doing in your job, just be professional and step it up. We got like do little star, the NBC, the more you know star. Yes. Cue that if we have that. Like, what just happened? This show just took
Get it together.
we're just gonna hug it out and be done with the show.
Yep.
That's good though. Yep. It's a nice, good end of the
I agree,
beginning of the year message.
I agree.
It's good for everybody. Lots to anticipate in 2015. 2014 was, like we said, interesting year, but overall, as far as the Kick and Make Up fans, you know, Jeremy and I just want to thank you guys for watching our shows, for tweeting us, for going and adding yourself in the Facebook page. Just all the support we get when we see everybody out. You know, it's awesome to see. I forget about it sometimes, you know, and like I said, it's really cool to have somebody come up like, oh man, I watched your show, or you know, that you said that, you know, you're full of shit for that. Like I like that. I like when random people just say stuff, and that I like that you guys enjoy the show and take time to watch it. That's awesome. We're not stopping, so thank you guys. Hope you guys have a good 2015 as well, and you're gonna see these faces all year long.
A whole lot.
So yeah, that about does it, man. www.kickandmakeup.com is the website. At Kick and Makeup is Jeremy's in the shows for Twitter. At Hybrid MMA is mine. Facebook group page. Get on Instagram, YouTube. Click in Kick and Makeup. Put Kick and Makeup as your screensaver.
Yes, anything.
We still need get some swag out there. We still owe a few people some shirts from like some polls we did like 2 years ago. So we will get those out by the end of this month. Definitely the summer, at the longest the end of 2015.
Yes.
I think we said that last year too.
I can guarantee that.
We have to do that. But anyway, yeah, we that's it, man. I think that's a wrap for this show.
Yeah, definitely.
Remember, don't solve it in the streets. Take it to the cage. Kick and make up.
Saroni kick.